So our first poem was Winter Song by Wilfred Owen, and starting from the title, we got kind of a positive connotation feel, because song could be like an ode to winter, and the word song has a positive connotation, like you're praising winter maybe. And it's kind of interesting because as we read the poem, that didn't actually turn out to be the full truth. It's a pretty short poem. It's only 2 stanzas, and we found the fulcrum to be in between the 2. And the first stanza is pretty much just description. It's talking about the colors of the fall leaves and how they're changing and being swept up to heaven, like the illusion of heaven, but just kind of going up in the sky where they're glowing and they're staying until Christmas when it transitions into the winter season. And then when the land is pale, the repetition of pale is really evident throughout the whole poem, and it's kind of used to describe, like you would think bland, but then it always goes something with, like it goes along with snow and like the beauty. So that kind of adds to the positive connotation of the winter. And then as you go into the second stanza, Owen makes it kind of more personal and introduces a you that he's talking to, like from off your face into the winds of winter, and then he ends it with, when paler beauty on your brows falls snowing, and through these snows my looks shall be soft going. So it kind of, he doesn't, like the first half of the poem is all description, and it's kind of setting the scene using a lot of imagery, but then towards the end he makes it more personal, makes a personal connection.
Yeah, when we were first looking at this, we weren't really sure what it meant, because we knew that Owen had like a war background, and it seems like it's just talking about the season and the colors, and it kind of has a weird kind of connotation because you're not really sure if it's positive or negative. But after looking at background information on Owen, we realized that it could be about his time in war, like during winter, and how it was cold and like it was difficult for him, but he still found beauty in it.
And it could have even been something about how when he was at war and he was kind of thinking back to where if he would have been home with his family and he could have been with his wife and looking at her through the snow, and like how winter can be beautiful, but maybe where he is at war, he has stories where it talks about how he and his men had to stay through the snow and sleep out in the snow, and their feet froze, and it was just really hard to endure in the winter. So it seemed kind of odd that his poem about winter would be positive, but we thought maybe that meant that he was kind of referencing how his memories of the winter weren't always like this, and that there is a better time, or there's a better place to be in the winter. And some of the literary devices that he uses, one's a lot of imagery, and then some repetition with pale. And it's interesting that the whole first stanza we found to be talking about the leaves, like the colors, because it says the browns, the olives, and the yellows died and were swept up to heaven, but he never actually says leaves, so that kind of leaves it kind of vague. And it could, even if you take it to war, it could be referencing just like even as morbid as people losing their color and losing their life and becoming cold, like the snow and pale. And one thing that also is really evident in this, you would think because about winter, it's very focused on nature, and the 4 elements of life were actually all mentioned in here. When the land lay pale, and then snow could be translated to the water element, and then it talks about how the leaves fell back and down the snowdrifts flamed, so that could be fire. And then it talks about wind a lot, like it's implied as it's being swept up to heaven, and then they're falling back through the wind into the snowdrifts.